In this video, I quickly want to take you through how analysts forecast Capex and depreciation. They typically use these two drivers, Capex as a percentage of revenue driver and a Capex to depreciation multiple. The Capex to depreciation multiple will drop depreciation out of the Capex forecasts. Now let's discuss each of these ratios. Capex as a percentage of revenues initially makes it sound like the revenue drives the Capex, when, in fact, most would argue that Capex is a driver of revenue. One way I can reconcile the use of a Capex as a percentage of revenue driver is to think of it as a reinvestment ratio. So what the driver is implying is for every $100 of revenue, if we take, let's say, that year 3 assumption, we're assuming that $12 worth of that revenue needs to be reinvested into Capex. We believe that with this mindset, the driver becomes more workable, despite the causality issues the driver might have, as we are thinking about reinvestment and linking revenue generation into reinvestment decisions. Now, you've got to be aware of the phasing between the Capex spend and the reaction in the revenue line. So we've worked with the assumptions here to illustrate a point. We have substantial Capex in the early years, which appears to be translating into an uplift in revenue growth in years 3, 4, and 5. Of course, this interrelated behavior will depend on the business model and the Capex period for that particular business. Now, all I would do here to pull out the Capex forecast is pick up the Capex to revenue ratio, look at the revenue and say, 11% of my revenue will be allocated to Capex in year 2. I've just highlighted that equation across the page. I will do Ctrl R, fill that to the right, and out drops a series of Capex forecasts. Then, I'll tell you what, let me complete this for these years as well. I'll put 14% in there for year 1, copy that formula back and take it back to year 1 as well, and so we've got 14 there. There's a little bit of a drop there, and now you can see I can modify my ratio quite quickly by changing the behavior of the Capex driver in that line. Now I've got the Capex there. When I move to look at the Capex to depreciation multiple, this multiple has some analytical insight that we can use, because what we're arguing here is that if Capex to depreciation multiples are in and around about 1, we're reinvesting just enough to maintain the business's asset base. Once that multiple gets above 1, we're suggesting that we have invested. Of course, this is a quick and dirty metric due to the weaknesses associated with depreciation numbers. But the multiple does provide us with some insight we would rather than not. If I now want to pull out the depreciation, all I do here is take the Capex and divide it by the Capex and depreciation multiple. Mathematically, this division cancels the Capex numbers and depreciation drops out of the equation. And here we can see that the Capex is 3 times my depreciation. So if I copy that formula across the page, highlight the equation and do Ctrl R, it fills out my depreciation numbers. I can take this analysis a little further and split out my Capex into investment and maintenance Capex numbers. Here I'm using depreciation as a proxy for maintenance Capex. It's a rough proxy, I know, and then my investment Capex is anything in excess of that maintenance Capex, so the total does come to 10,000. And what I have there is a split, which helps to provide some context to the Capex numbers over that period of time. You can see that as we start maturing this business, the revenue growth kind of tails off. The Capex reinvestment starts to tend towards depreciation, and the Capex becomes more maintenance-driven than anything else. This is typically how many analysts forecast capital expenditure. It will only ever work well if analysts consider the Capex as a percentage of revenue driver, as a reinvestment ratio, and are focused on the relationship between Capex and revenue regarding how the reinvestment model drives the operating model. We should also tie that into the behavior of the Capex and depreciation multiple in terms of forecasting the behavior of a reversion to a long-term sustainable average on that Capex investment as the company matures and the Capex starts to draw down towards maintenance Capex. So there you go. That's the typical way you'll see Capex and depreciation forecasts generated in models. In the following few videos, we'll go through the depreciation waterfall build. As we've said, a depreciation waterfall will give us a deeper insight into how the balance between maintenance and investment Capex evolves over time, and ultimately, it will provide us with a deeper insight into the evolution of the operating and reinvestment models. All right, thanks a lot. See you soon.